If you clicked on this video, we're going to talk about multifamily property management for hotels and syndication, limited partners, general partners, pretty much how to get into multifamily, how to make that jump from single family to starting to own the 12 plexes, the 24 plexes, how to start building those partnerships with people that are closing these deals. And for that, I have Micah Hayworth with me, and we're going to talk about what does it take to build that portfolio, build that reputation, how to make the connections. Thank you so much for being here, brother. Excited to have you and just pick your brain on everything you're working on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate being here.
Awesome. Give me a brief description of how you describe yourself.
Right now, I'm a syndicator. So that means that I find deals, I put them together, and then I'll pool capital from other investors to take them down. So typically that involves me not putting any of my own money into a deal. And so I always say that there's three components for every deal. There's the money, there's the deal, and there's the hustle. And so I'm the one who's doing the deal and the hustle portion, and I find someone else to bring money.
Okay, that makes sense. And so in a short, that was so good, dude. It was like that's the shortest answer I've ever given to syndication.
Yeah,
That's really good.
It's a simple concept because people they'll talk about a JV deal. So
Right.
if you normally partner with somebody, the whole idea is that the way the JV deal is legally structured is that you need to everyone needs to be actively involved.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to have any passive partners that aren't just signing on a loan, if you have passive partners that are involved, it needs to be a syndication. So that's all really that's the only real distinction is that it's passive.
Okay. So if somebody's not doing anything, that's the syndication.
Yeah.
That makes
Some people
sense.
try to get away with it, but it technically like that legally that is the way you have to do it. It's like you have
Okay.
to register it just like it's a stock in a company essentially.
Okay. Because I've seen deals, and I'm not gonna throw names out there, where it's a JV, but
Mm-hmm.
usually in the single family realm. So we're talking about 30-day transactions, 45-day
Yeah.
transactions. So might be a bit different. That's probably why they're getting away with it.
Yeah. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA, so I can't comment too heavily on it. I can only tell you what I've done. Um, though I know like a lot of people will do some of those smaller deals like that. A lot of people will do even the same size deal. They'll just do like a loan essentially,
Okay.
and they'll do like 15% interest rate or whatever it is for a small renovation loan for 30 days. So a flipper can go do the deal, and someone else can kind of benefit from that. But there's all sorts of ways people like to structure deals. This is just the way I do it.
Okay. Before I ask you to break down like the process of being a syndicator, how you find those
Sure.
deals, let's talk a little bit about your portfolio and what you've done.
Yeah, man. So right now I have 85 units. I've bought all 85. Well, actually, it's 84 technically. We can get into that later. 84 units. I bought all 84 in the past 6 months. So we started I bought a 12 unit in March. That was a JV deal. So I partnered with two other partners on that. And then in May, I bought an 11 unit apartment building, which I syndicated. And then I just syndicated a 61 unit hotel, which we closed on a couple weeks back.
Nice. Okay. And what do you think is such a small period of time, like short period of time?
It's an overnight success that took 3 years. It's one of
Okay.
those things. Yeah. So
Okay.
it basically I started investing back in 2020. I bought my first single family house at the end of 2020, and it was because at the beginning when the whole COVID thing happened, I was working as a lighting tech in live events. So I was doing concerts and stuff like that, and then live events disappeared because of COVID, and so I lost my job.
Yeah.
And that was what like sparked me like, okay, I had like a W-2, got a 401k, got the benefit package. I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm set to go. And then I lost all of it
Yeah.
because, whenever you're on a W-2, you're basically one bad event away from getting fired.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't the stability I thought it was. And so I went seeking out that stability. And that's how I went on with real estate. And so went through this journey of reading books, podcasts, all this sort of stuff. And that inspired me. By the end of 2020, I put a down payment and bought my first single family house. I renovated that over like a year and a half. So I self-funded everything. And so I was doing all the handyman work myself. And then after I sold it, I actually was able to make enough money that I paid off my wife and I's student loans
Yeah.
in one fell swoop. And then we had enough money to go buy another property, another single family, renovated that, then refied out that, and I used that to put the down payment on my first 12 unit.
Okay. Smart.
So it took this period of time, this whole time, to kind of like build up that fund for the initial purchase, and then I started in 2022 with really learning more about multifamily.
Okay, when you
And
talk about when you talk about learning, what do you mean? A person like who was? These are not decisions that you just read on a book and you're like, okay, yeah, this is the route. Like, who were you seeking advice to?
So I grew up knowing that multifamily, oh, that not multifamily specifically, but real estate was a great path to pursue. My grandfather always did real estate, and he's done really, really well for himself, though he never taught me anything. He just kind of
Mm,
served as an example. And
okay.
it wasn't until 2020 that I really made that click in my mind that, hey, real estate's not just for people who are like super wealthy. It's for anyone who's willing to put in that work. Um, and so then as I started this whole time when I started buying my first property, I was always educating, and one of the things I really learned from as I'm looking into multifamily is that there's a lot of superpowers just in that asset class that don't exist in something like single family. A lot of it is economy of scale, so it's the same kind of effort to do one transaction in a multifamily versus a single family, and then on top of that, you have economy of scale.
Yeah.
So when I'm negotiating with a contractor, I'm negotiating for 12 units or 60 units rather than just one. And it'll give me a lot more leverage and bargaining power in those conversations.
Right.
Additionally, as I started looking into using other people's money, multifamily is more exciting than a single family when it comes to trying to raise a lot of money. At least from what I found. I know a lot of people do great jobs with single family. A lot of people have great single family portfolios, so I'm not knocking that. It was just the route that I found that for me to talk about doing big deals and to find these big properties, people want to be involved in those. And it's easier for somebody, even if somebody who's already an investor, say in the single family side of things, to want to scale into the multifamily and to invest in my deals to do so.
Okay. That completely makes sense. Break down for me now syndication. How are you generating the leads?
For the capital or the deals?
No, for the deals. Let's just talk about the deals for now.
Yeah, man. So I started in 2020, in March of 2020, and I started underwriting multifamily deals. A lot of it came from brokers, to be honest. I haven't done any off-market stuff. So it's all brokers, and you build up the relationship with them. I had educated myself about real estate enough to where when I call a broker and I talk to them on the phone, I am educated. I'm not, a lot of people say, yeah, I just want to buy, my a multifamily property. They're like, okay, what kind of property?
Right.
And there's not anything further than that for most people. But I have a specific criteria that I go after in the multifamily and now into the hotel deals that we go after, and I can talk knowledgeably about the industry. And then I've learned a lot of great underwriting tools and learning the specifics of how to underwrite a commercial property. And so I can show basically the proof of my work and the math that I have behind each of the deals and the evaluations that I have
Okay.
for all the property.
Okay.
But a
So
lot of it. Go ahead.
two thoughts that come to my mind. When real estate agent, a commercial real estate agent hears the word syndication, they're like, somebody that might want to waste my time. So
Yep.
that's one question. And the second one is when you're getting this pro formas, I guess what's your due diligence to make sure that like the numbers are what they actually say that they are? Because when a property is listed on the market, it's just like, I mean, tenant's paying this, but you're not accounting for this $5 a month, and you're not doing this, and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. That you make everything look nicer than it currently is.
Oh
So,
yeah.
which one do you want to take on first?
So we can talk about the numbers really quick. So when you're talking about a broker's pro forma, it's practically useless depending on the broker. I've talked to some great brokers that get some realistic numbers, but the vast majority of brokers, they got a set of numbers or relative numbers, rules of thumb, let's call them, that their boss gave them, and they're just plugging into a spreadsheet, and they're basically a glorified salesman. which is fine if you're listing properties like that, but I just don't trust numbers at all. I always take it as my own thing. I have my own rules of thumb from basically I've gotten quotes from local contractors or local lawn care companies and things like that when it comes to the expense side of things. And then I pull my own rent comps when it comes to how much I think I can get per unit.
Mm,
Um, One of the things I always tell people that I've talked to ask me about multifamily and when it comes to the numbers is I say it does not matter, what so and so on YouTube can get when it comes to lawn care. It matters what you can get someone in your market to charge you for that. So it doesn't matter what someone else's rule of thumb is. It matters you just reach out to a local company and see what they would charge you for that service. Pretty much everything, like when it comes to utilities, you can get those records. Those aren't going to be really false. Tax records are easy. Insurance, you can get a quote for that. Lawn care, you can get a quote from that. Maintenance, you can get a quote for that. Um, Property management, you can get a quote for that. So it's really, you just go call people in your local market. You find where you want to buy. You call people in that local market. For like every property, you'll like call them up and be like, for example, property management company, it's like, hey, on this 50 unit property, is that something you would be able to manage for me? And if so, what would you charge? And you give that enough times where at that point you know exactly what they're going to be charging you, and so then you can just write that into your underwriting and you'll have realistic numbers for it.
okay. With regards to that, is there any numbers or any data, any information that you have problems obtaining, or that it's just because you're going through outsiders that might
Mm-hmm.
do a good job at like explaining. Ultimately, you just average everything down and see what the numbers are at, right? Based on local comps. Is
Mm-hmm.
there any numbers that you struggle finding?
As far as expenses and such,
Yeah.
um, like not really. Everything is pretty evident. I think the only thing that really would vary would be your expenses. Not expenses, sorry, your repairs. Uh,
Repairs. Okay.
so that can kind of vary depending on what your handyman charges you. Also about the age of the building, which is something you have to take an educated guess upon. For me, I always write it in. If it's a 1980 1970 property to early 2000s, I'll typically write in about 6 to 8% for of gross revenue for repairs. And if it's older than that, I'll write in 9%. And then if it's older than like 1930, I write in like 10%.
Hmm.
And that's just for me to scale up of what I anticipate the repairs to be. For those older buildings, it's going to take more, and so that's just one of the things you kind of have to get a little bit of experience in that. But I would just say always round up, and for that first deal, you're just going to have to find something that works in that way, and then once you get actual experience in that type of asset or that age of asset, then you can really start to refine those numbers. It took me a long time to get that first deal, and a lot of it was because I had to be fatter, so to speak, with my numbers to make sure I was safe to buy that first property. It took me, I underwrote 146 deals before I bought that first 12 unit. And it took me about a year to do it. Just
Mm.
consistent work of constantly underwriting, looking at these pro formas, looking at properties. And finally, one came across my desk where I was able to hop on it quickly because I had experience underwriting deals in that specific market. And then I had the knowledge base behind that to really negotiate hard to get the deal done.
Okay. Why do you think the all this time that you spend generating like underwriting things,
Mm-hmm.
those didn't become leads or necessarily like why didn't you close on anything before?
There's a couple factors with that. And honestly, part of it is because I was newer. So when it comes to the brokers, for example, like you're talking about, you had asked that question when it comes to like how to make a good impression on them. That's a big deal, and I think there's a lot of that which worked against me when I was first underwriting. Even though I do come across pretty well read, I think people, one of the things they'll always ask if they don't know you is, hey, what's your portfolio?
Yeah.
Or what do you currently own? And so if you respond with nothing, what will happen is they won't necessarily write you off initially, but when they're talking to their seller on, hey, which one of these deals to accept, even if yours is the highest offer, they might just say, you know what, this guy is newer, he's probably not going to be able to close. Versus this other seller, I've closed with them 3 times already. And so it's one of those things of you have to kind of prove yourself in that market or partner with someone who has already proven it, which is what I ended up doing to get my second deal done. That first one, it was hard. And I bought a property out in Panora, Iowa, which is 45 minutes straight west of Des Moines. Um, and so it's a smaller market, smaller town. And so not as many people are interested in properties in that market.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually really familiar with the market because I grew up in Panora. Though
Gotcha.
that wasn't how I was able to find it. It was just listed on the MLS. As I was underwriting deals, I like saw that it popped up there. I was like, well, I know that town. And I really leveraged my personal experience with the town and my experience with the property to help me get that first deal. I was also willing to close on a shorter timeline than some of the other buyers.
Okay.
So some of the other offers, they were having longer time periods, and so I think it was a 14-day due diligence period, which was shorter than some of the others, and that was one of the deciding factors there, because I think there was only two other offers that we were competing against. So kind of going at a less competitive market helped me get that first deal, and so then when negotiating for the later deals, I can say that I'd already closed on a property.
Okay. That makes sense. And in terms of so that's how you generate the leads for your business. In terms of the partnerships and acquiring the financing for those properties. Um, I'll say it's mostly networking, but what are your thoughts on that? How do you acquire the fundings?
Networking is key. I have 3 deals that I've participated in that are multifamily or hotel, and I have 7 partners across all 3 deals with no overlap. And all those partnerships are what allowed me to buy each one of those properties. That first one, I partnered with 2 other people who combined together, we had the net worth to apply for that loan.
Mm,
Um, the second deal, I partnered with an experienced multifamily investor who had about 65 units in the Twin Cities, which is where I live. And we bought that deal up there. And his experience in that market and his net worth is what allowed us to apply for that loan to get the financing for it.
okay.
And then for my last deal, the hotel, I partnered with another partner who has about $4 million worth of mobile home parks, and he used that net worth in order to apply for it. So honestly, it was partnering for success, and
Right.
that is how I got each of those deals. I would not have been able to do them by myself. I could have done it, but it would have taken me years more to do it. And so instead, I partnered with people that had complementary skill sets to mine, and also the experience that I needed in order to get those deals done.
Okay. Let's bring it back to the hotel. Can you break down the numbers and how you acquire that? Like
Mhm.
how do you guys close on that deal?
Yeah. So how do we close on it? So my partner Tom Eady, he used to work as a broker at Marcus and Millichap, and
Okay.
so he's retired from that at this point. But one of his friends who still works there reached out to him and sent him this deal his way, which is a 61 unit hotel. At the time, it was actually 58 units. During due diligence, we found that there was an extra 3 units in the property. But at the time, it was a 61 unit hotel that we found is a $3.5 million purchase price, is what we ended up offering on it. And at that point, it had been on the market for over 6 months. And so it was in Brainerd, Minnesota, which is actually a great vacation market. So it's a town of about 50,000 people. There's a great lake there. There's a speedway. There's a zoo. There's zip lines and all sorts of great stuff that it makes it a great hospitality market for summertime travel. And there's even a ski hill there, so it makes up for some wintertime travel as well. Which is so when he found this deal, he hadn't raised any capital at that point, and I had started raising capital for my syndication deals. And so we had met at a networking event randomly a year before, and then he gets sent this deal, and he's thinking about it. He's like, okay, well, I'd really love to have someone who had some capital raising experience, or who at least had a back end system that I could plug into. And then he went to another networking event, him and his wife, Stephanie, which is another one of our partners. They went to this networking event, and I happened to have showed up to that one too. And I didn't even see them, but he saw me as like, oh, that's Micah. He like raises capital for syndication deals. I should reach out to him because he still had my business card. And so
Right.
he reached out to me. We met, and he showed me the deal. And that's what really started us getting on that. And what really closed the deal for me is that the same week that he sent me that deal, I met our fourth partner, Mike.
Yeah.
And Mike has 25 years of experience managing hotels.
Mm.
Though he had never bought his own hotel,
But
he
he
had
knew
this
how to run
experience.
it.
Yep, he had the asset management or the property management experience, and so all together we all had the skill sets required to take the deal down. And so we ended up raising 1.2 million for the deal to take it down. So we syndicated it. And it was a $3.5 million purchase price. We started this whole thing probably around May, and we finally closed on it at the beginning of the month.
Okay. And what's that partnership look like? Who's responsible for what? I'm curious, how do you structure that?
There are division of labor, so to speak. So I'm what they call, I'm the underwriter, acquisitions, and investor relations. So I help find the capital, and I help do the initial underwriting and get the deal under contract. My partner, Tom, he's our due diligence guy, and him and his wife together work on the managing all of our renovations.
Okay.
Obviously, our partner, Mike, who has all of his management experience, he is our asset manager, and he is the one who makes sure all the properties run smoothly. And so he is also a point of contact for all of our general managers, which currently we only have one because we have one hotel, but he's the point of contact for it.
Okay.
And then Stephanie also has a lot of a background when it comes to payroll and bookkeeping and things like that, and that helps us as far as the running of the actual business, because we have about 7 employees now, and a general manager on top of that. And so it definitely is turning into more of a company that we're having to manage as well.
Right. It only makes sense that you end up managing people the more you scale. Does so are you guys technically still general partners or limited partners? What's that look like?
Yep. So we did a 70-30 split is what the syndication world will call it. So that means of the property, 70% of that we give to our investors.
Okay.
And they have what we call limited partnership shares. Limited partnership shares, you get the income, you get the benefits and all that sort of stuff, but you don't have any day-to-day responsibility. And which also comes in, you don't have any when it comes to like operational voting rights. So one of my investors can't come in and tell me what color to paint the wall, and then the other 30% is what we split up amongst the 4 of us, which we all each own about a quarter of it. There's 1 or 2% difference, but we all own about a quarter of that company, of the general partnership shares, and that's like what I would call the manager shares. Just how Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they don't own a majority percentage of Amazon or Tesla or SpaceX.
Right.
Yep, but they own the ownership, the management shares of it.
Yeah, they own like 5%, 10% at most.
Whatever it is. I don't know, but but they have the management shares, which keeps them in control of the deal. That's exactly what we do. So we give away a lion's share of the profit from the deal, but that's because we have these investors who want in on it.
Okay.
And that's just the going rate, so to speak, for it.
Okay. And then when you're raising capital and with your partners in general, I'm curious, what sort of exit strategy are you planning to have, or how does that necessarily work? Because I'd imagine some investors want their cash flow coming in every single month. Some other are looking more of a time frame in which they could get their money back. What does that look like?
So we typically walk into a deal with a 5-year hold. And so we propose that. And so what I'll do is when we do our investor pitches is we'll present, hey, in 5 years, we have the opportunity to either sell a property, and this is the return we'd get, or we could refinance the property and return some money to the investors, and then hold on to the deal. For this particular deal, when we refinance, if we refinance in year 5, we'd actually be able to return all the investors' money to them, and then we'd all maintain ownership. And so then it's an infinite cash on cash return for our investors.
Okay, so you pretty much came in with little to no percentage, and then now you're owning it completely outright.
Our partner, the people who are bringing the money, so at that point they would still remain in the deal. This is how we've structured the specific one, and it kind of depends on the syndicator how they'll play it. But we decided, because this is our first hotel, we wanted to give a lot more, put a lot more meat in the deal for our investors. And so we're allowing them to stay in the deal even after we refinance. And so that way they'll still get that cash and cash return. Well, actually the infinite return from the cash flow after we refinance in year 5.
Okay.
Yep.
And then rinse and repeat. Probably once you refinance, and you'll just go looking for more deals. Right? You probably already are looking for more deals. Is that?
Betcha.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely are. So we gave it a pause for the first month as we're stabilizing this one property, but
Mhm.
starting next month, I'm going to start underwriting more
Yeah.
deals. We're going to start trying to find
Yeah.
some more properties to take down,
I'd imagine
specifically.
I'd imagine every deal is so different, but what is your time frame for that first monthly payout to your investors?
So we do quarterly, so about every 3 months,
Okay,
and
but
so
do you, I guess right now, is that something you guys started doing the moment you took over the hotel, or is it like a plan, like a 1 year plan in which you're just stabilizing the property? What does that look like?
we're actually planning on giving investors a cash flow payout in the very first quarter.
Hmm.
And that's part of the difference. And one of the reasons why we went for the hotel is that it is a high cash flow deal. If we did absolutely no renovations to the property, we did no value add, and we matched last year's revenue, so their gross revenue, and we increased the bottom line by like 100 grand, we would still be making an 11.5% cash and cash return.
What do you mean the bottom line?
I'm sorry, the expenses.
The expenses. Okay, okay.
So
You
we would,
still
if
be making. Okay, wow, that's a great deal.
yep, and if we follow our targets right now and we increase our occupancy by 3%, we'd be getting an 18% cash and cash return.
Mm, okay.
And it's a hotel. It's like people talk about how great it is to run an Airbnb. Well, we basically bought 61 of them at once.
Hmm.
So the cat and so we benefit from the same economy of scale that like apartments have over single family. Same thing with hotels when it comes to Airbnbs. But then we have the benefit is that we don't have any um, continually and changing laws when it comes to a lot of towns getting rid of Airbnbs completely. We have
Yeah.
no worry about that whatsoever because hotels have been around since Jesus, and no one's they're not going anywhere
Yeah.
anytime soon.
Right, and the turnover ratio on an Airbnb is so high, like the cleaning fees and then restocking fees, whereas like at a hotel, everything's at a greater scale, and you have on-site cleaning
Mm-hmm.
employees. It's a completely different ball game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely has been a great asset to manage at this point. And as far as like looking at the historicals and looking at the future for it, I think we're running it right now at about 65% at highest when it comes to the expenses.
Yeah. Probably
So
this is probably a better question for your partner, the one that has all the but I'll ask you anyways.
yeah, go ahead.
What type of marketing strategy are you guys taking on to increase that occupancy rate, that 3% that you were talking to me about?
hmm I think the first thing to understand is where it currently stands. So right now, this property operates with 48% occupancy.
What do you
Now,
see?
for a hotel's occupancy is basically the number of units multiplied by 365 days. Because if it was fully occupied, it'd be occupied every day for every room. And so in this market, though, we've pulled the comp properties in the area, and all the comp properties operate about a 61% occupancy. So it
Mm,
currently operates at 48, and the market is 61. So we see there's this deficiency there. So it's already about 13% lower. And so we know that if we can get this property performing to how the other ones are performing, and there's not huge differences in amenities or anything like that, they're relatively the same, except that the properties are just run better, and
mm,
they some of them are a little bit newer. And so part of our value add is that we're going to be renovating all the units, and on top of that, when it comes to the marketing, we're doing a lot of local outreach to the local businesses in the area. So like one of the ideas is that there's a ski resort in town. And so we'll reach out to the ski resort and offer a 10 or 20% discount for people who book at the ski resort can then book at the hotel. Same deal with there's a speedway in town that does races. We'll do the same offer. And that same speedway actually hosts concerts. So they'll have like an
mm.
artist come out and they'll set up a whole stage and do the whole thing. And so we're going to reach out and do the same thing of like, hey, if you buy a ticket, you get 10, 20% off a room here, and do a lot of that local outreach to other businesses so that we can start getting referral clients to the property.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But then,
Yeah.
what is your plan to that 13%?
Mm-hmm.
That's a wide gap.
It is. The the previous owners,
Mm-hmm.
they ran their property into the ground. So it was basically them and their parents that ran the property by themselves.
Mm.
Um, the parents were the cleaning staff, and the mother ran all the front desk, and they did not have consistent cleaning, so the rooms were consistently dirty, and on top of that, the lady would never even pick up the phone.
Mm.
Like you call the property and she wouldn't even pick up. On top of that, she never did any outreach. She never did any advertising. Nothing. She literally just sat there and waited for people to walk in the door. That was it.
Okay.
Um, and her customer service is horrible. One of the things when it comes to like the room cleaning is that when we looked at the property initially, we did some mystery shopping. So we just booked a random night and stayed at the property. And my partner walked in the door of his supposedly clean room and found there was the previous tenant did not flush, and the housekeeping staff didn't look. So if that tells you how detail oriented their cleaning staff was,
Yeah.
they're not.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that this previous owners, they ran the place into the ground, and yet last year they still made 400 grand after their own salaries they paid to themselves. So I'm like, okay, if they can run this property and make freaking $400,000, I think if we bring in a professional management team, professional housekeepers,
We'll kill it.
We're gonna freaking kill this thing.
Yeah.
And again, it's like we see these differences, and it's like people are very afraid of hotels and whatnot because it's more of a business and there's all these more intensive things. But I just looked at it from a common sense approach. I'm like, okay, if we do nothing, we're making 11% cash and cash. But if we can beat these, how they performed, we're going to be making 18% plus. So I'm like, okay, we can do this. And then when we found our partner, Mike, who has this management experience, I'm like, there's no way we can fail.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That every little detail that you give me is just more and more. One more, sentence that makes me think that this is a good deal.
Oh yeah, should have invested.
You should have invested. You should have
No,
called
it's
me
like,
before.
no, I should have called you, bud.
That's amazing, dude. So what do you got going on for are you looking for partners? Are you looking for investors? Are you looking for people to teach? What do you got going on for the rest of the year?
A little bit of everything. So right now, the main focus is going to be underwriting and then raising capital for the next deal. So I have my other partners who are focusing on the management and the renovations on the current deal. And so my job is to find the next one, get it under contract, and that way my partner Tom can start doing due diligence on it. And so a lot of it starting next month, I'll be underwriting, and we're also going to plan on doing some reaching out, just cold calling hotel owners. That's one of those things of building those personal relationships with other owners, and we can come into it with the idea that, hey, I'm also a hotel owner, and we just bought this property. We've been having a great time with it. We'd love to buy another one before the end of the year. Always let me know if you're ever considering getting out of the game and start building those relationships. Additionally, I'm raising capital, and so we're actually hosting an event next month at the property. I've been doing all sorts of social media posting, going on podcasts like this, and really kind of getting the word out. And it really comes from people don't know they could even invest in a hotel.
Right.
That's not
right.
That's not like a thing. It's not like I just need to let everybody know this is like a thing, and it's actually very stable compared to other options, where you get ownership of the property and then you get percentage of cash flow that comes in the door, and it's high cash flow. So struggling to get an 8% cash and cash return. It is you're getting 18% cash and cash in that first year. Where some other deals are doing their whole value add thing, and during the value add process, they're not even able to do any distributions. We're making those distributions.
That makes a lot of sense. So you guys are hosting a meetup at the hotel?
Yeah. So we're doing this thing. We call it the Check In to Success event. It's just kind of one of those corny names because check in like a hotel. But basically, we're hosting a case study of the property where we're going to talk to people about how we bought it. It's going to be a networking event, and you get to stay at the property. It is charged, so I'll put that out front, but it's $200, and you come. There's a free happy hour, complimentary, so you get free drinks. You stay at the property. Then we do a catered breakfast the next morning, and then we do a bunch of seminars as we talk about how we bought the property, our management strategy from all the partners will be there. And then we're doing lunch on the lake, and then we'll be doing some golf afterwards.
Sounds like a fun day.
Yeah, the golf is extra, so that's not included. But we're just trying to throw stuff together. But honestly, it's like we're trying to make it pack in as much value as possible to get people to
Right.
come up and see what we've been doing.
Right.
You know?
The networking part is huge. It's
Yeah,
just not that I'm trying to vouch for you or in any sort of way. I try to stay neutral out of it. Like
yeah,
sometimes people don't understand that those 200, that the ROI that you're paying for
hmm
$200 to be in the room with people that are like-minded.
yep,
There's really no cap, no ceiling to
hmm
what you can obtain from that. So
yeah. And we're so pumped. And there's another group in Minneapolis that does similar events where they're just a networking group, and they'll every month they'll host a meetup at the property of one of their members. And that's always been so great because you get all these people who are just interested in real estate.
yeah,
We're not necessarily selling anything, but though we do let you know that, hey, we are constantly looking for investors. But outside of that, it's just like we're all interested in real estate. We all like talking about these different value add deals, the different types of assets you can invest in, and it's just one of those great things where you get people like minds coming together and learning about a new asset class they could be investing in.
yeah.
There's no wrong answer to that. It is definitely a great event. We're excited to
Yeah.
host.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that people don't know that they can invest into hotels. Like that's
Yeah.
just not even a thing. Most people, it's just like, oh,
hmm
S&P 500, go to talk to a financial officer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. What's the best way to contact you, man?
Instagram is big. You can follow me on Instagram. It's at Micah Hayworth. So it's MICAHHAWORTH. I'm also on LinkedIn as well.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot from hotel administration and how to run a hotel a little
Mm-hmm.
more. I'll try to make it to your event, but
I did.
yeah, dude, it's nothing but a good information. I hope everybody over there find it valuable as well. And then if you have any questions, I'll leave Micah's contact and information and
Mm-hmm.
all of the links to all the videos that we're creating. If you guys like the episode, like and comment. I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to say, man.
Well, dude, I appreciate you having me on, man. And I think it's just for everybody, like constantly look to educate yourself and learn, expand your mind to different avenues of making wealth. For me, it was like at first I thought, single family wasn't for me, and then I did it. I thought
Yeah.
apartments weren't for me, then I did it. And I thought, oh well, hotels aren't for me, but then I did it.
Yeah.
Be willing to learn more, partner with people who know more than you, and you have no choice but to succeed.
Yeah. Your earning potential is only determined by your knowledge.
Amen.
Yeah. Yes, sir. If you made it this far, subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. See you, man.
Thanks.